Thanks for watching BBC News Now today. I'm on X at Anita BBC. Matthew Amroliwala is here next. So do stay with us on BBC News.
Hello. After bringing wind gusts of more than 70 miles per hour to some parts of the
And we're going to say unprecedented a lot.
The news is just words without the context.
And this is The Context.
The Context with Christian Fraser on BBC News.
Live from London, this is BBC News. Delight in the hall, but what about wider America? Kamala Harris pledges a new way forward as she formally accepts the Democratic nomination for president.
I promise to be a president for all Americans. You can always trust me.
Italian authorities recover the final body from the wreckage of a luxury yacht which sank off the coast of Sicily. Tributes are paid to 18-year-old Hannah Lynch, the last person unaccounted for after the boat went down in a freak storm. India's Prime Minister embraces President Zelensky in Kyiv just weeks after meeting President Putin in Moscow. And no cars, no rubbish. Bristol gears up for a net zero music festival as Massive Attack plans a totally eco-friendly gig. Hello and welcome to today's Verified Live. We start in the US where the party conventions are done, with Kamala Harris formally accepting the Democratic nomination last night in Chicago. She promised a new way forward for the United States, delighting delegates in the hall. There are now 74 days till the November election. The polls are tight, especially in the crucial swing states. Around the world and across the UK, you're watching BBC News. You're watching BBC News. Let's turn to the latest developments now from the Middle East. The UN's Defence Secretary Lloyd Austin says he has spoken to his Israeli counterpart to discuss a range of issues in the region, including the ongoing exchanges of fire on the Israel-Lebanon border and the need to finalise a broader ceasefire deal. Meanwhile, a volcano has erupted in Iceland for the sixth time since December. Incredible pictures there. The eruption in the southwestern peninsula has seen lava spewing into the air. These are the live pictures. The Icelandic Meteorological Office said the eruption began at 21:26 local time following a series of earthquakes. I'm back with headlines here in just a moment.
Hello, let's take a look at the weekend weather prospects. After bringing wind gusts of more than 70 miles per hour to some parts of Europe have been pretty hot.
Click BBC News.
For breaking news live as it happens, follow BBC News in the BBC app. Save the stories you want.
Be ready.
Get your news your way. From
Change
live
can
news
happen
and
in an
sport
instant.
updates to global headlines. Stay up to date with the news
Check
that matters.
on the
Follow
BBC weather app.
News in the BBC app.
Welcome to BBC News. Let's turn to our main headlines here. Kamala Harris pledges a new way forward as she formally accepts the Democratic nomination for president. We'll examine her key claims with the help of BBC Verify. Italian authorities recovered the final body from the wreckage of a luxury yacht which sank off the coast of Sicily. A British Paralympic champion says prosthetics provided by the UK Health Service need to improve to help produce Team GB's next generation of gold medalists. We'll speak live to Richard Whitehead about his concerns. And no cars, no rubbish. Bristol gears up for a net zero music festival as Massive Attack plans a totally eco-friendly gig. Well, we'll have all of those stories coming up in the next few minutes. Let's pause for sport. Tanya is with us, and good afternoon.
Matthew, thanks very much indeed. Let's start with the golf, because after an up and down second round at the Women's Open, England's Charlie Hull remains in contention at St Andrews. She led after the first round, making the best of the tricky conditions on the east coast of Scotland, but dropped early shots in her second round. And you can follow the cricket, the golf and the F1 on the BBC Sport website. George Russell has just set the fastest time in second practice. That's all your sport for now, Matthew.
Tanya, thanks very much. Let's get back to what we saw in Chicago, because Kamala Harris promised a new way forward as she accepted her party's nomination for the US presidency at the climax of the Democratic National Convention. Well, she told jubilant supporters that the US had a fleeting opportunity to move past bitterness, cynicism and division. Well, BBC Verify has been fact-checking Kamala Harris's speech, including her claims about Donald Trump's policies. With me here in the studio is Merlin Thomas from BBC Verify. So, Merlin, tell me, what have you been looking at? Katie Watson, around the world and across the UK, if you're watching BBC News.
Travelling can be so much more than a holiday.
It's about diving headfirst into new experiences
and seeing the world with fresh eyes.
Where each destination tells a unique story.
And every encounter brings a new perspective.
Because all of these amazing places
are made so much richer by the people who live in them.
So unleash your spirit of adventure.
And join us for a deeper understanding of the world.
The Travel Show on BBC News.
I'm travelling to the mountains, valleys and coast of Bulgaria. From prehistoric rock art deep in caves to the discovery of antiquities on the seabed.
Oh, look at that.
From medieval myths to history that lives now and timeless traditions that help explain why rituals matter.
Aha!
Join me, Bethany Hughes, for the wonders of Bulgaria here on BBC News.
Welcome back to BBC News. Now, Massive Attack helped redefine British music back in the 1990s. Well, now the band from Bristol are trying to change the music industry's record on climate change with their most environmentally friendly gig yet. 34,000 fans will only be able to buy vegan food while watching a concert solely powered by batteries. Just a warning, this report from David Sillito does contain flashing images. Now, the Paralympic Games start on Wednesday, beginning a week and a half of watching amazing sportsmen and women at the top of their game. But a reigning Paralympic champion has told BBC News that prosthetics provided by the health service here in the UK need to improve to help produce Great Britain's next generation of gold medalists. Well, let's talk live on the programme to that Paralympic. Richard Whitehead, two-time Paralympic champion. Welcome here. Hi. Thanks for joining us. Now, you've been really scathing about the problems. For people who haven't heard what you've been describing, what is the particular issues here with the prosthetics that so many people here in Britain actually access? You really are, and we're grateful for your time, but we have to end it there because we are out of time. Back with more headlines in just a moment or two.
Hello, here's your latest update. Wind gusts of more than 70 miles per hour to some southeast of the USA is looking.
And the theft of ancient treasures that were sold around the world.
Live from London, this is BBC News. Delight in the hall, but what about wider America? Kamala Harris pledges a new way forward as she formally accepts the Democratic nomination for president. The independent candidate Robert F. Kennedy Jr. withdraws from the presidential race. What impact is that likely to have on November's election? The Italian authorities recover the final body from the wreckage of a luxury yacht which sank off the coast of Sicily. Continued concerns about the energy prices for consumers around the world. In the UK, households will pay more for power, with the energy regulator announcing an increase in its price cap. And no cars, no rubbish. Bristol gears up for a net zero music festival, has Massive Attack plans a totally eco-friendly gig. Hello and welcome to Verified Live. We start in the US, where the party conventions are now over, with Kamala Harris formally accepting the Democratic presidential nomination on Thursday night in Chicago. She promised a new way forward for the United States, delighting delegates in the hall. Well, 74 days before November's election, the polls remain tight, especially in the crucial swing states. Bethany Bell there in Sicily, thanks very much for that update. Thank you. Around the world and across the UK, you're watching BBC News. You're watching BBC News. Now, India's Narendra Modi has urged President Zelensky to enter peace talks with Russia to end the war. On a visit to Kyiv, Mr. Modi said he would act as a friend to try to bring about a truce. Last month, President Zelensky criticised the Prime Minister for visiting Vladimir Putin in Moscow on the day that dozens of people were killed in Ukraine by Russian missile strikes, including at a children's hospital. Well, a short while ago, I spoke to Jyoti Malhotra, who's the editor-in-chief of The Tribune in India, and I began by getting her assessment of Narendra Modi's visit to Ukraine. Great story to finish this half hour with. A postcard that was sent in 1903 has finally reached its intended destination. 121 years late, the Christmas-themed card was recently delivered to a branch of the Swansea Building Society. Staff are now searching for a relative of Miss Lydia Davis, who was arrested.
Hello, let's take a look at the weekend weather prospects. After bringing wind gusts of more than many places.
Strangest stories in the list. Watch on BBC iPlayer.
Welcome to BBC News. Let's turn to our main headlines this half hour. Kamala Harris pledges a new way forward as she formally accepts the Democratic nomination for president. We examine her key claims with the help of BBC Verify. A trial of a promising new lung cancer vaccine that uses mRNA technology to tell the body how to fight and kill the disease begins here in the UK. And no cars, no rubbish. Bristol gears up for a net zero music festival as Massive Attack plans a total eco-friendly gig. So let's head back to Chicago and the events there, because Kamala Harris promised a new way forward as she accepted her party's nomination for the US presidency at the climax of the Democratic National Convention. She told jubilant supporters that the United States had a fleeting opportunity to move past bitterness, cynicism and division. Well, the BBC Verified team has been fact-checking Kamala Harris's speech, including her claims about Donald Trump's policies. Merlin Thomas told me what she'd found. Katie Watson. Around the world and across the UK, you're watching BBC News.
Το σχολείο το μόνο που μου άρεσε ήταν τα μαθηματικά. Όχι πραξιστά, αλλά έτσι να κάνεις σχήματα και αυτά μου άρεσε.
Almost every facade in the village of Pirgi is covered in these geometric patterns. Located on the island of Chios, it is a hypnotizing landscape made of triangles, rhombuses, and semicircles. Craftsmen employ a technique called xista, the Greek word for scratch.
Δεν μπορείς να έχεις σε ένα σχέδιο να είναι άσπρο και να ακολουθήσει μετά πάλι άσπρο. Θα πρέπει να βρεις ένα σχέδιο που θα ταιριάζει να κάνει την αντίθεση. Ο χάρακας στο αλφάδι, από τα πιο βασικά, ο διαβήτης, το πυρούνι και το κυβελώνα.
Original global stories from the BBC.
You're watching BBC News. Now, if you've ever seen the massive abandoned tents and other cast-off, you know that British music festivals have a sustainability challenge. Well, now the band Massive Attack are trying to actually challenge that. At their latest gig, fans will only be able to buy vegan food, while the concert itself is going to be solely powered by batteries. Well, Greg Cochrane is a climate and culture journalist. Now, he interviewed the band Massive Attack on this event for The Guardian newspaper and was talking to me just a short while ago. Greg Cochrane, talking about festivals here in the UK. High winds caused by Storm Lillian have brought widespread disruption ahead of the bank holiday weekend. Leeds and Reading festivals both been particularly affected, and organisers have confirmed that the BBC Radio 1 stage in Leeds will now be out of action today. These pictures, this footage comes from a campsite at that Leeds festival. Festival goers have been advised to actually stay in their tents, with gusts reaching 60 miles per hour, taking quite a few tents away with them. Some attendees have complained about the situation, requesting their tickets are refunded. You're watching BBC News. Now, the Paralympic Games start on Wednesday, offering a week and a half of watching amazing sportsmen and women at the top of their game. But a reigning Paralympic champion has told BBC News that prosthetics provided by the health service here in the UK need to improve to help produce Team GB's next generation of gold medalists. Here's Nikki Fox, here live on this programme. So all of that is coming up in the next hour, but that's after weather, and that's with Ben Rich.
Hello. After bringing wind gusts of more than 70 miles per hour to some parts of the UK.
Text Red Paris, watch on iPlayer.
So usually these lakes are all covered with snow by the time the water freezes. I think what was so special about this ice is that because it's up in the alpine, it's up in the mountains, the lake bottom doesn't have any vegetation, and it's rock instead of soil, and so the water is really clear.
Original global stories from the BBC.
Live from London, this is BBC News. Delight in the hall, but what about wider America? Kamala Harris pledges a new way forward as she formally accepts the Democratic nomination for president. Meanwhile, the independent candidate, Robert F. Kennedy Jr., withdraws from the presidential race. What impact is that likely to have on November's election?
Here in Sicily, the authorities say they've recovered the final body missing after a shipwreck here earlier this week.
India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi offers to play a personal role in efforts to bring about peace to Ukraine during a visit to Kyiv. We speak live to the former Indian ambassador to the United States. Continued concerns about energy prices for consumers around the world. In the UK, households will pay more for power, with the energy regulator announcing an increase in its price cap. And no cars, no rubbish. Bristol gears up for a net zero music festival as the band Massive Attack plans a totally eco-friendly gig. Hello and welcome to BBC News and today's Verified Live. We start in the US, where the party conventions are now over, with Kamala Harris formally accepting the Democratic presidential nomination last night in Chicago. She promised a new way forward for the United States, delighting delegates in the hall. There are now 74 days before November's election. The polls remain tight, especially in the crucial swing states. Ambassador, we've run out of time, but we're very grateful for your time. Thanks for joining us here on the programme.
Thank you.
Around the world and across the UK, you're watching BBC News.
I owe everything to my grandma and her cooking. Our food is traditional and innovative. My business grew quickly, and I really want to keep putting my passion for food first. So we digitalized with Alipay Plus D-Store to manage payments and operations efficiently. My dashboard shows me how the store is operating. One day, people will know this dish is from the Hainan story. It's about a promise to my grandmother that will carry on her legacy with pride.
Welcome to Focus on Africa, the place where real-time, in-depth and relatable stories matter. With me, Waihiga Mwaura, coming to you from Nairobi, where we unfold your discussions.
I always want to keep it original by being new.
News.
Macron announced that the French forces will leave by the end of the year.
And conversations.
It was the most beautiful thing I'd ever seen in my life.
That bring you to the heart of the continent. Focus on Africa from BBC News.
You're watching BBC News. We were just talking about the war in Ukraine, which of course caused a spike right across the world in energy prices. And that issue continues to be a concern for so many consumers in so many different countries. Well, today, the UK energy regulator Ofgem has announced that its price cap will increase by 10%. From the 1st of October. It means an average household in England, Scotland and Wales will pay an extra £149 a year, although prices will still be lower than last winter. Ofgem says rising prices in the international energy market is caused by heightened political tensions and extreme weather. Those are the main drivers of today's decision. Let's get more from Ben Boulos. Fascinating report there from David Silito. Let me end this half hour showing those pictures from Iceland, a volcano erupting for the 6th time since December. The eruption in the southwestern peninsula sent lava spewing into the air. The nearby village of Grindavik evacuated again. Of course, not many people in the area after those previous eruptions.
Hello, let's take a look at the weekend weather prospects. After bringing wind gusts of more than 70 miles per hour to some parts of Europe.
Yay! I'm enjoying it.
Yeah, this is good.
The latest developments from the world of tech.
I could come up with a date predicting when you would die.
Pat your head, rub your stomach.
This is actually a floating solar farm. And it's a pretty impressive sight.
African and international news stories.
That went right through me!
Click Watch on BBC iPlayer.
Live from Nairobi, this is Focus on Africa
Welcome back to
on
BBC
News.
To our main headlines,
our top stories.
Continued concerns about energy prices.
Households
Households will pay more for power,
as a new variant
with the energy
spreads
regulator
to Asia
announcing an increase in its
Europe.
price cap.
I had swollen lymph
Balloons
nodes.
and bright colours as
It was so
Southport
painful,
mourns
I couldn't
7-year-old
sleep.
Elsie Stankham,
Then the pain
one of the victims
subsided
of last
up
month's
here,
knife attack.
and it moved to my legs.
Well, those are our main headlines
for the Wagner
here
Group
on the
following the
programme.
leader
We'll have more on
Prigozhin's
those
death.
stories here in
Well,
a moment
BBC
or two.
Africa
let's turn
explains the
to
current
catch up with the latest
status
sports
and
news of the day. Let's
uncertain
cross to
future
Mark
of the
Edwards.
Wagner
Mark, good
Group,
evening.
a private
Good evening. Thank you
military
very much,
organisation.
Matthew. We're going to start with some golf, and it's the
also
second round
coming up
of the
in
Women's
the
Open at
programme,
St Andrews,
US
and overnight
Vice
leader Charlie
President
Hull,
Kamala
3 strokes
Harris
behind world number one
the
Nelly
Democratic
Corder. And
nomination
let's go straight to
at
Scotland,
the
where Jen
final
Dougal
night
is at the old
of
course
the convention.
for us. Jane, what's the
And
latest?
in sport, we meet a Nigerian couple. Also,
I'm Margot Nelly Corder, really showing us why she is the world number one with a flawless second round. 4 birdies for her today, taking her to 8 under for the tournament. Really impressive from her. That's after she started a shot behind the overnight leader. Corder now tops the leaderboard, and it's rather apt that she does so in this final major of the year, because the American has had such a great season with 6 wins in a row on the tour earlier in the year. She's looking to win again this weekend, and it's safe to say that she's on her way to do that, but perhaps wanting to stop her. 3 shots behind on 5 under is England's Charlie Hull. In sharp contrast, she's had quite an up and down day today. She was the overnight leader on 5 under, but then had 3 bogeys in her first 11 holes.
About the latest from that festival in Leeds. Next up here, it's time for the 6 o'clock news. We'll also have the latest from the Democrats Also, in the next hour, of course, we're expecting RFK Jr. to formally withdraw as an independent from the presidential race. So the latest on that, the latest two of India's Prime Minister's visit to Kyiv. So plenty in the next 60 minutes. But let's catch up with all the weather details here first.
For the country and make the Africa proud as well.
Hello. After bringing wind gusts of more than 70 miles per hour to some parts of the UK, Storm Lillian is already clearing away. But the weekend does still look quite unsettled, not as windy as it has been, but still fairly windy. Some heavy rain at times.
The future is already
Get in-depth
here.
coverage on bbc.co.uk/news. Follow the story of the US election on BBC News.
A flipping burger robot.
Click on BBC News.
It's 6 p.m. in London. This is The World Today with Geeta Gurumuthy.
Say they're devastated after their bodies are believed to have been recovered from the wreck of his
Kamala Harris pledges a new way forward as she formally accepts the Democratic nomination for president.
The
independent candidate, Robert F. Kennedy Jr., is expected to confirm his withdrawal from the presidential race. He's to address the nation in the next hour.
Really scary, but we did
Indian
get the
Prime Minister Narendra Modi visits Ukraine and
cold.
urges President Zelensky to enter
The
peace
funeral
talks
takes
with
place of
Russia
Elsie
to end the war.
Stanko, who
We have
was
live
7 years
reaction
old,
from
one
India.
of the 3 girls killed in the
Also
Southport
coming up
knife
on The World
attack.
Today, how to conduct an eco-friendly
wild
gig.
weather
The band
hits the
Massive
Leeds
Attack
Festival
plans a
as Storm
sustainable
Lillian
outdoor
blows
music
in.
event that will be
And
car-free,
coming up on BBC
rubbish-free
News, a
and
maiden
powered by
Test century
batteries.
from Jamie Smith helps England to an excellent day in the first Test against Sri Lanka at Old Trafford.
Hello, welcome to The World Today, an hour of international news here at the BBC. We begin in the United States, where the political theatre of both parties' national conventions is now over.
Hello there. The family of the technology entrepreneur Mike Lynch and his daughter Hannah, who was 18, say they're devastated and in shock after rescue teams in Sicily found what are believed to be their bodies.